Hello and welcome back to IGN Live at E3 2017. My name is Marty Sleva and I am so freaking excited. Brian Intihar, creative director.
Thanks for having me.
Spider-Man. It's here.
You know, I can't believe when you say that, like creative director of Spider-Man and just Insomniac working Spider-Man, it's pretty special.
How surreal is that?
To close the Sony press conference, to the reaction, seeing the booth, seeing like a actual helicopter being suspended by webs with Spider-Man on top of it. Yeah. It's been, I mean, it's been a, we haven't talked about the game for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like, people are like, are you tired of doing interviews? I'm like, actually, no, because it's kind of like therapeutic. I can finally get it off my chest, all the cool things I've been working on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was one of the highlights last year, was all of a sudden out of left field as we get these keys for the game. Insomniac's working on it. We go radio silent for a year. Yeah. We're getting to the end of the conference.
People were really happy on Twitter about that. Yeah. They were really thrilled about that.
We're getting to the end of the conference, and I'm like, if they don't show Spider-Man, what are we going to do? And then all of a sudden we see this, and we finally see what the game is. So,
I think that was a cool thing when people saw the HUD pop on for the first time. It was like, so this is actually an mission relatively early in the game. Spider-Man's already taken down Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. the Kingpin. But a new threat has emerged in the city, the Inner Demons, and this is kind of one of their stops along the way that they're kind of going after different territories. And Spider-Man obviously arrives on the scene like a good superhero would, and he's starting to take down the demons while a little bit later, we get a phone call from Wilson Fisk saying, please save my guys, and then superhero stuff happens.
Sure. As one is want to do.
Yeah.
So is this sort of indicative of what combat encounters are going to be like?
Yeah.
In terms of interactivity?
I think, I mean, I think it's this demo gives a good example of like what we're looking for in terms of our core combat, this idea of him being like that acrobatic improviser. He's going to be combining, melee, whether it's on the ground, up in the air. So you saw some stealth in the very beginning. Webs, environment action, which you're going to see a lot throughout this video, as well as his gadgets. Like, Pete's a smart guy. He develops his own tech.
Yeah.
Those are mechanical web shooters. Yeah. We're not doing the organic thing. So, we want to kind of give you a lot of player choice to take these situations down. Like, we're actually playing this demo behind closed doors and at the theater, and everybody at Insomniac's playing it is changing up their play style as they play.
I love that. Yeah, Insomniac, as a developer, is always, to me, when I think of them, and especially Ratchet & Clank and Sunset Overdrive, I think of, weapon variety, gadgets, and I also think of a sense of mobility and locomotion.
That's great you say that. So like if you look at, in the very beginning of the demo, he places this object on the wall, the web tripwire, and the idea is that anybody who walks in that path of that little blue line will basically, a web will come out and grab him. But the thing is, the cool thing is there's multiple ways to use it. You can actually attach it to an enemy, and if another enemy walks by, they'll web slam into each other. You can stick one to a wall, and you can kick the guy up in the air, and it'll grab them. So we definitely want, the classic Insomniac way, fun weapons and gadgets. But at the same time, when it comes to traversal, a sense of flow, fluidity, and style that we had with Sunset Overdrive and bringing that to a Spider-Man experience.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you guys were announced as the developers, I immediately thought of playing Sunset Overdrive, getting all the way across the city without ever touching the ground.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's Spider-Man.
Yeah. It's just, he's a little bit more in the air than, whereas Sunset we kind of had a more grinding nature. This is more like swinging around, adding some parkour elements to them, and just really making sure that we have that sense of speed, fluidity, flow, and style that you expect from a more experienced Spider-Man.
Yeah. So you say a more experienced Spider-Man.
Yeah. Do you like how I threw that in there?
I like that. Yeah, that was a really good. That was a really good segue.
My PR people will be super proud of it.
Obviously, the stinger at the very end of the Sony conference was the shot of Miles Morales.
Yeah.
We are playing as a little bit older Peter Parker, but obviously Miles is going to play a role in the story.
So yes. I guess there was some confusion whether that was Pete or Miles in the suit.
Some people were confused. I thought it was pretty obvious.
Yeah, well, there's a line. Something might be a little bit harder here. Is that he actually at one point when he's webbing the tail up, he says, "Come on, Pete, let's do this." He's referring to himself, and then Miles is in our game. I can't say a ton about him, but one of the reasons why we pushed to put him in the reveal, this demo is that we keep talking about a unique Spider-Man universe, and we're not, it's not attached to a movie, it's not attached to a particular comic series. We want to kind of, respect the traditions of the franchise, the DNA of the character, but we also want to mix things up, and Miles is a good example of that, but at the same time, this is a Peter Parker journey, right? And having Miles there is going to let us tell maybe a little bit different story when it comes to Peter than maybe people sort of used to, but it's still it's still that Peter Parker that you love and know.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about, we've seen so many iconic Spider-Man stories in books, in cartoons, in games, movies.
Yeah.
How do you sort of subvert tropes and expectations and deliver something original while putting your own fingerprint on it?
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we work really. I mean, we have a great staff of writers, designers, artists. I mean, look, really, it's really a collaborative experience, and then also working with Marvel, working guys like Mike Jones, Bill Roseman, and that crew, and also our Sony team as well, and thinking about if we just did the same story that a movie did, or even just saying, hey, there's a great line by Bendis or Slott that we really like, we just did the same events, people would be like, that's cool, it looks really fun, it's fun to play, but like there wouldn't be as much surprise. But we look at those stories, whether the original stories to what you're reading today is, what are the similar DNA strands that we can take and inject that into our story? And that's been really exciting.
Yeah.
And there's some really big, there's really some big surprises. And we're not telling a ton about the story in this. Sure. Obviously, we saw Fisk, we saw Martin Lee. But the thing we've been talking about is the best Spider-Man stories are when Peter's world and Spider-Man's world collide. And that's what we're going to do with, Martin Lee, because Martin Lee runs the Fee Shelters. Aunt May works at the Fee Shelter. Okay. That collision, and that's something we're going to be carrying across the entire game, and that's what makes the best Spider-Man stories whenever you've read them or you've watched them.
So, is Peter Parker going to play a role in this game? Because generally, Spider-Man games, it's Spider-Man.
For us, it's important to tell the story of Peter as Spider-Man, and they just go hand in hand. And this idea, when Spider-Man succeeds, Peter fails, and when Peter succeeds, Spider-Man fails. We want that kind of juxtaposition. Yeah. If that's even the right word, I think.
That's a juxtaposition.
I thought it's not as smart. I don't know. It's been it's 2 days, right? I will tell you, I'm not going to go ton into the Peter side of things, but we want to deliver a human story, and having Peter be there, starting his career, he's just graduated college, all that's going to tie into the entire experience, and he will be very well represented for people who are just asking him the question of whether it's playable or not.
Yeah, yeah. Does he work at the Bugle in the store?
He has a new job. He's a scientist.
Okay.
Scientist.
Oh, very cool. I was about to say being like a photojournalist.
The Daily Bugle is in the game. You've seen probably billboards for it, but he's, we want to play up the science angle for him. He's a smart guy, man, and we want to tell that side. That's another example of where people probably traditionally people think photographer, Daily Bugle. Well, we're gonna go a little bit older, lean into that science that helps with the development of his suit, the gadgets, the web shooters, everything. So we really want to tie into that.
Yeah. Science also pays better than journalism. I think we can both attest to that.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the things we're seeing. I love this sense of heroism.
Yep.
You don't get that a lot in superhero games. You get a lot of violence and beating up the bad guys, but you have to do things to avoid collateral damage in this.
Yeah. So I think for us, I'm glad you say that, because for us, there's a lot of New York City is a character within itself for us, and you can't have New York City without the people in it, right? And to be a true superhero experience, we want those big spectacle moments, but there's got to be stakes with it. Well, if just the crane was falling in an empty city, it's just damage, right?
Yeah.
But we specifically put that shot of people looking up at the crane because there could be that Peter would never let anybody die like that, or that when the helicopter happens, he's first-person mode shooting at it. We want there to be real stakes to everything Peter's doing in the game.
That is absolutely incredible. I am so freaking excited for Spider-Man.
We're excited. You're excited.
2018?
Yeah, 2018.
Okay, so one of the 365 days in that year, we're going to get Marvel Spider-Man for PS4.
We just want to do it right.
Yes.
We know, I asked to specifically be on this game. Once we kind of got it rolling, I was like, I want to be part of this, because I know how important this character is to me. I know how important this character is to Insomniac. And also the amount of people talking about the game. The biggest compliment this whole week has been the number of thank yous I've gotten, and I don't deserve them. The team deserves them. Insomniac deserves them. And we just want to do the character justice, the world justice, and we're going to spend as much time as we can to get it right.
Brian, thank you so much. This is personally my game of the show so far. So
I like that. I like hearing that, because there's that Mario guy I keep hearing about every day.
Have never
Spider-Man.
Never heard of it. Spider-Man coming to PS4 in 2018. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Everyone, stick around. We're gonna have so much more IGN Live right here at E3.